Hey guys, first regardsman here. Today I'll be talking about the brand new, fully revealed perk tree for the Techmarine class that is coming in patch 12 with the titular Techmarine update. Now, Saber Interactive released this like a couple hours ago. Now, most of these are the same from the leaks we had before. We're going through them here one by one. Let's give my opinion on them. So, first up, they go through here with the Servo Gun ability, unleash a powerful Servo Gun volley, and your starting perk is you can detect and activate Tarantula Sentry Guns. They will attack nearby enemies until they run out of ammo or are destroyed. We have seen some gameplay of these already. They look pretty damn powerful, like not like super potent yet for damage, but they do blow up and damage enemies when they die, which is a pretty powerful tool in itself. There's also a prestige perk we'll get into that buffs up that damage later. Now, my overall opinion on the ability here is that the Servo Gun looks really fun. The Servo Gun looks like it could be potentially very strong, and it will automatically shoot guys with your gun strikes for you, leaving you open to keep doing melee attacks, which is pretty cool. There's also like a really cool synergy we'll get into later. So that is our main class perk ability. The first actual perk in the core tree we have here is Explosive Enfilade. After using did I even say that right? But either way, after using equipment, your range damage increases by 15% for 10 seconds. This could be really good, especially if you have a secure stockpile tactical on your team. Now, I do have a sneaking suspicion that secure stockpile will be nerfed in the upcoming patch because there are a few reasons I think that we'll get into later, but for now, I think that's the way it's going to be. Now, this perk seems pretty decent, but the next one we have here is Arc Cleave. Damage from charged melee attacks increases by 25%. This perk is good. If this is just the overcharge perk, if it is a 25% multiplicative melee damage increase, this will be like a pretty much 24/7 take for me. The overcharge is one of the best perks on Assault and Bulwark. It's one of the most damaging abilities in the game. This should be the same on this class, and honestly, this guy has access to the Power Axe, Power Sword, Combat Knife, and the new Omni Scion Axe, so overcharge would be incredible on him. Great perk, almost guaranteed. Now, next up we have Explosives Adept. Damage from equipment increases by 20%. I'm not super interested in this one. I don't think direct damage bonuses to equipment matter that much because for the most part, you only hit like one breakpoint, which is a crack grenade on absolute difficulty or above, or like maybe hard stratagems, and then you can one-shot guys like a Zoanthrope with a crack. But for the most part, Melt Bombs already one-shot everybody outside like the highest waves of Siege, so I don't really think these are that good overall. But, they can be fun to use. Now, next up, we have the first team perk. This is Reinforced Position. Reinforced Position. All team members within 15 meters of an active Tarantula Sentry Gun take 25% less damage, and they deal 15% more damage. Now, a flat 25% damage reduction on a Tarantula Sentry Gun within 15 meters, that's good. Like a 25% damage decrease for your entire team within 15 meters of these turrets you're going to be fighting around anyways. That is a strong perk effect. Flat damage reduction in Space Marine 2 is very rare. You really only find this on things like the Bulwark's Glory Shield perk, which does make me think this would be pretty powerful. And getting to deal 15% more damage on top of that, which is a flat damage increase, also sounds very strong. So this might actually be one of the best options, depending on how strong the Tarantula Sentry Guns actually wind up being. Now, next we have the first gear tree, which is, excuse me, we went back. Here we go. First, sorry. Okay. Enemies hit by the Servo Gun take 15% more damage for 10 seconds. This sounds great. Depending on how the cooldown of the Servo Gun actually goes, a 15% damage debuff to the enemies would be very strong for your entire team because most of the time in Space Marine 2, when you have a perk that reads like an X enemy takes 15% more damage for an amount of time, this will apply an actual debuff to the enemy that will affect not just your weapons, but your entire team's weapons. This could be very strong. I think this sounds like a pretty damn good perk. It does depend on what the cooldown of the Servo Gun actually is, but for now, my first impression would be it's a pretty good option. Now, next we have the Augmented Ammunition Feed. Servo Gun recharges 15% faster. I imagine it'll be pretty strong. We haven't gotten to the other gear options here, but for now, CDR in Space Marine 2 is always strong, and really in any Horde shooter it's quite powerful. It's going to be no different here, I'm sure, unless it's like the maneuverability or squad cohesion on the Assault that does suck. Now, next we have the Counter-Offensive Protocols. After using the Servo Gun, melee damage increases by 35% for 10 seconds. Now, if this is multiplicative, this damage buff is ridiculous. If it's an additive damage buff, it'll be okay. Either way, 35% is a chunky damage increase. 10 seconds is a very long uptime, and you should be using your Servo Gun periodically throughout your whole game. This is just going to be a nice little drip feed for your Omni Scion Axe, Power Axe. And this will also play further into the Overcharge perk with Arc Cleave we have over here. So that's actually a pretty good option. And now we have the first signature perk, Decapitating Stratagem. Killing or incapacitating Majora's level or higher enemies with the servo gun regenerates its ability charge by 100%. The cooldown is 90 seconds. Now, killing or incapacitating is interesting because all you have to do is put them to execute with this, and they'll automatically recharge your servo gun. There is a precision enhancement we'll get into later, but that could be pretty strong. Like getting your servo gun back automatically with a 90-second cooldown. 90-second cooldowns are long in Space Marine 2. Being able to like one-shot a guy and get your entire regen back, that could be pretty decent. We'll have to see how this actually plays out in the PTS though. Next up, we go back to the core tree here, precision enhancement. Oh, they went too fast. The servo gun now targets single dangerous enemies and fires powerful precision shots. This is basically just a sniper setting for your bolter gun here, servo gun, excuse me. This is just a sniper setting for your servo gun. This could be pretty strong. We don't know the actual damage numbers of these yet, but I assume that this will play pretty well into the first signature perk we had, and I am looking forward to this one in particular. Now, the next one we have here is Methodical Destruction. Enemies damaged by equipment take 25% more damage for 10 seconds. This could be decent on bosses because let's say you drop like a crack grenade on a Neurothrope or something, you drop a Melted Bomb on a Carnifex, and you get that entire damage increase for your whole team because like I said before, usually these just apply debuffs to the enemy for your entire team, and that could be pretty strong, so I think this could be a pretty decent option. Now, next we have Push the Advantage. After a finisher, your melee weapon deals 20% more damage for 15 seconds. Now, once again, like I said, multiplicative damage increases with these are usually way better than additive, but either way, you'll be doing finishers all the time in Space Marine 2, no matter what. Saber Interactive did state that this class will be a bit more melee focused than range focused, so this could be a very strong option. And a 15-second uptime on a 20% melee damage buff on a finisher, I assume that it will reset itself every time you get a finisher. That's a pretty strong buff. Like, I'm not gonna lie, a 15-second uptime in this game is pretty rare to find, and a 20% buff is fairly substantial, so it could be a pretty damn good perk. Definitely better than the other one up here. Now, this perk here sucks. This is called Battlefield Repairs. Excuse me, Battlefield Repairs. All team members fully regenerate their armor and gain one additional armor segment when using Medicae stims. This is just like, I don't know why they made this perk, I'm gonna be honest. This one doesn't seem very good at all. When you take a look at perks like Focus Restoration on Bulwark, this one just loses entirely. Having, like, you know, armor regen on stims and getting one additional armor, because like basically you're just getting an armor boost every time you use a stim, which could help you sometimes. Like, this would definitely save your life, but drip fed armor restore is definitely better. Hopefully they buff this or like take a look at it, because my first impression is just it's not that good, because Medicae stims are not that present in the game. You really have to ask, how often are you actually going to be finding a stim? How often will this team perk actually come into effect? Not that often, because your team isn't going to have as many stims as, say, like, you know, the benefit you get from a team perk like Inner Fire or Secure Stockpile, MSU, that kind of thing. So I don't like this one too much. Next up, we have Inexorable Salvo. While the servo gun is active, you do not lose control from heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back. This is just a no knockback perk effect. No knockback perk effects in Space Marine 2 are top tier pretty much wherever you can find them. This one's condition of having your servo gun active does kind of suck, because I'd rather just have one on parry or gun strike and stuff like that, because those are usually a bit safer for you as a player because they aren't conditional on your actual class ability that has its own cooldown. But no knockback is strong. Not getting knocked back in Space Marine 2 is an incredibly powerful effect, and this one should be pretty good as well. Now, next here, we have Augmented Tarantula. Tarantula Sentry Gun damage increases by 25%, and the ammo increases by 50%. How good this perk actually is depends on how good the Sentry Gun is, and if the Sentry Gun does a lot of base damage and gets a huge buff from a 25% increase on top of running out of ammo on its own, this could be a pretty good perk effect. And the one up here makes it so your servo gun comes back a little bit faster. That does sound better to me initially, but if the Tarantula Sentry Guns are strong, this one sounds like a pretty good perk. Next, we have Fortifying Salvo. Killing an enemy with a servo gun restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 30 seconds. Now, the melee damage buff up here is very strong that we talked about previously, but also armor restore on a 30-second cooldown this game for servo gun kills. That's pretty decent. It does kind of suck this is on a 30-second cooldown though, because I think it should be like 15 seconds. If we take a look at classes like Heavy that have a 15-second cooldown for every single time you kill 7 enemies in a rapid succession with any weapon at all, that just sounds straight up better in this one. Also, Heavy's a tankier class, so maybe take a look at this cooldown. But for now, Armor Restore while drip fed in Space Marine 2 is incredible, and this should be pretty decent as well. Now, the next signature perk we have here is a Lethal Perimeter. The servo gun marks a zone and automatically attacks enemies that enter it using 20% energy per shot. Excuse me, using 20% less energy per shot. This could be pretty strong. I'm not really sure how this is going to be different from the standard servo gun because the servo gun on its own already has an AI controlled targeting system. So maybe you have a bit more of a manual activation of this, but 20% less energy per shot, more uptime on your class ability is usually pretty good in Space Marine 2, but the servo gun's power is dependent on which variant you take. There's also going to be a plasma version we'll get into later, but so far the signature perks sound a lot better than the team perks do, except for this first one, but this doesn't sound too bad at all. Now, next we have Plasma Enhancement. The servo gun now fires exploding plasma projectiles at enemies. This is going to be the main crowd control version, I'm pretty sure, because the Plasma Enhancement, we saw some images of this in the previous Xbox Wire article as well. I'm a big fan of Plasma. This basically just turns your servo gun up here into a plasma pistol, and being able to have this crowd control effect that they kind of mentioned previously could be pretty strong. Though personally, I might prefer the precision enhancement more, depending on how much damage it does. We'll get to test all of this in the test server pretty soon. Now, next we have Omnisci and Axe Deflection. After a perfect parry or perfect block, you will take 25% less damage from ranged attacks for 5 seconds. Now, this is pretty good. 25% less damage from ranged attacks is pretty strong. Range damage reduction does affect your armor, not just your HP. And a 5-second uptime is not like incredible, but you also do perfect parry and perfect block all the time in Space Marine 2. And usually in this game, when you have a 5-second uptime on a class ability like this, it will automatically reset itself on every single perfect parry and every perfect block. So reapplying this should not be very difficult at all. So it could be pretty decent, though a flat damage reduction would definitely be better, or a health damage reduction. This is still pretty good. Now, next after this, we have a long range barrage. Range damage at ranges greater than 20 meters increases by 25%. This perk doesn't sound that good. A 20-meter range requirement is just not that great in Space Marine 2. This class has a melee focus, like they said, so how often are you actually going to be sitting there to shoot at this distance? You also have to keep in mind, the Techmarine's loadout is an auto bolt rifle, a bolt rifle, an Oculus bolt carbine, a heavy bolt rifle, and the plasma incinerator. This just does not sound that good. And on the note of the loadout, the Plasma Incinerator is very dependent on the Tactical's Plasma Boost perk to be strong, so it does sound to be a weaker option on this class in general, but the Oculus Bolt Carbine and Bolt Rifle are both pretty good for headshot damage, and this damage buff could be quite substantial, but a 20-meter requirement, I'm not sure if I like that much. Like 10 meters, 15 meters would feel a little bit better. 15 meters is like a better thing for if they buffed up the damage a bit, but my first impression on this is I would prefer the middle one here because it's like a way better damage for like how this class is going to play. Next up, we have the team perk Combat Squad Resupply. All squad members gain 1 additional equipment except for Melt-A-Bomb. So they don't want you to have 2 Melt-A-Bombs. And you might be thinking initially, okay, so why are we not getting an extra Melt-A-Bomb? Why is 2 Melt-A-Bombs so bad? Well, to me, it kind of sounds like the secure stockpile perk on the tactical class might be receiving a nerf here at some point, because if they are making sure that we don't get extra Melt-A-Bombs, they're probably aware secure stockpile is like the best team perk in the entire game right now, and if they're going to have that get nerfed and then leave this one the way it is, that would make a lot more sense, because as of right now, this one seems pretty good, just not remotely as good as secure stockpile. But like, additional equipment is a strong effect, especially since we have a lot of equipment regen in this game already. Now, next in the gear tree, we have Synergistic Arsenal, excuse me. Servo gun recharge rate increases by 25% when you are near a Tarantula Sentry gun. This is a pretty cool effect. You can build around with things like the reinforced position up here into Synergistic Arsenal, into the other buff for your Tarantula Sentry Gun, have like a Sentry Gun build. I'll probably try that out first in the new PTS that's coming out, but as far as having a better recharge rate in your Servo Gun, this is more substantial in the 15% up here, so it could be pretty strong. And like, I doubt the Servo Gun cooldown is going to be horrific, because if you look at class abilities in Space Marine 2 overall, things like Auspex Scan, things like the Bulwark Banner, these are generally way longer cooldowns than things like the Jump Pack are and the Vanguard's Grappling Hook, so hopefully the Servo Gun's kind of like in the middle there. So this could be pretty good. Next up, we have Replenishing Salvo. Oh, hold on. Let me go back. Killing an enemy with a servo gun restores an equipment. Cooldown is 90 seconds. This is your major equipment restore on this class. This is for things like combat squad resupply on top of this. You know, every single class in Space Marine 2 usually has some kind of equipment restore, except for Bulwark, and they're almost always on a 90-second cooldown. So you have things like consecutive execution. You have the 60 seconds on secure stockpile, like I mentioned before, and you also have things like consecutive execution on the, not consecutive execution, Pattern of Excellence on the sniper. They're a 30-second cooldown. But as far as like rapid succession, gear tree, core perk tree stuff, usually it is a 90-second cooldown. It's no different here. And killing enemies with your servo guns seems pretty easy because this counts for any of them, including Minoris, so pretty good. And next we have the strategic gun strike. Servo gun only targets Majoris level or higher enemies and deals 20% more damage when the target is more than 20 meters away. So that's kind of interesting that your servo gun can shoot a pretty far distance. Like 20 meters is not like ridiculous in Space Marine 2, but it's far farther than I thought that the Techmarine servo gun was actually going to fire. And if we take a look at the perk back here again, I'm not going to roll back the video, but the precision enhancement that basically turns your gun into a sniper shot. This is going to be a really fun synergy because basically you could take this one, turn your gun into a sniper shot, go here, give it 20% more damage against enemies that are 20 meters away, depending on how accurate the servo gun actually is, and it will only target Majoris or higher enemies, so the enemies you actually want to be killing. And you can take the signature perk up here and have it be recharged instantaneously on killing an enemy every 90 seconds. That's pretty cool. That seems like a pretty fun build combination here, and for the most part, the perk tree overall, there are some issues I have with it, but I think it is definitely moving in the right direction. None of these perks are like aggressively bad to me outside like a few examples, so I think this is a much better base perk tree than we've had in some of the other classes, especially at launch. So great option here, and this perk seems pretty fun. Now, the final signature perk we have here is Omniscience Fury. Servo gun shots set enemies on fire. Okay, burning enemies in this game is incredible. Being able to light enemies on fire is a incredibly powerful effect. We see this with the Pyre Blaster, we see this with the Pyre Cannon. This could be one of the best signature perks in the entire game. We'll have to see how it actually functions in the PTS, but my initial response to this would be lighting enemies on fire is incredible, so this is probably going to be a top tier option. Now, that is everything in the actual perk tree. Like I said, I think they seem pretty decent. I am thinking like the build options here are pretty fun looking, but hopefully we get like some changes in the PTS. And now, as far as the prestige perks go, these ones, this is where I'm a little disappointed. Okay, and I'll explain why. It's not because these are bad, because some of them are pretty good. If you look at the chained headshots here, this is a good perk. Headshot damage increases by 3% per consecutive headshot up to a maximum of 15%. The bonus lasts 5 seconds without landing a headshot. My issue here is not the perk effect. My issue is that if we go back in game real quick here, and we look at the tactical perk tree, this is literally just acuity here. Each consecutive headshot increases headshot damage by 3% up to 15%. The bonus lasts 5 seconds without a headshot. It's just a copy-pasted perk for the most part. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because this class does have the same weapons as tactical predominantly, especially the ones that benefit off of this this perk, like bolt rifle, the heavy bolt rifle and stuff like that. But copy pasting perks on a brand new class, I don't know. I think we could have been like a little bit more creative than that. Next perk here is Revive Surge. When the Techmarine revives, a squad members both gained 15% faster ability recharge for 10 seconds. This perk sucks. Like, having to revive a team member to trigger your perk effects in this game is already like a super niche thing, because how often will the uptime of this actually be there? Not that often. And a 15% faster ability charge regeneration, that's just not a lot of value for a prestige perk at all, especially compared to things like Stim Boost. Medicae Stims restore 40% more HP. Once again, this is a copy-pasted perk effect from the tactical, where this is just resilience. We'll go back and show that real quick. This is just resilience. Medicae Stims restore 40% more health. Now, I don't have a problem with this being copy-pasted. This is also on Bulwark, but 40% more HP off your stims, that is a strong perk effect. That is definitely a good option for this class, and hopefully it's going to have a bit of like a little bit of a change here at some point. But as far as my initial thoughts on this perk, it's pretty good. Like, I mean, anything that breaks the pickup economy of Space Marine 2 is a pretty strong effect. Usually having 40% more HP makes your stims more valuable, and pickup economy is a huge portion of this game, so good perk effect, even though it's copy-pasted. Next up, we have a Volatile Sentry. Sentry turret explosion damage increases by 40%. This perk could be shit or it could be incredible. Depends on how good the explosion damage of a sentry gun is. And also, we don't know for sure if sentry guns have a, if they go by difficulty, they scale with difficulty and their explosion damage. I imagine they will, because otherwise you'll start like one-shotting bosses or do nothing on absolute. So this perk could be pretty strong. Next, we have blast radius, increase equipment damage radius by 15%. This perk effect is okay. It's predominantly good for things like shock nades and melt-a-bombs, but melt-a-bombs and shock nades are two of the best equipment in the entire game, and this class does have a pretty big equipment focus anyways, so it's okay. It is copy-pasted though, and so is this one here. Defensive stance. If you're surrounded by 5 or more enemies, you take 20% less damage from range attacks. If you go back in game, again, this is just scramble targeting, which is one of the better perks in the game, to be fair, because the assault has access to this. If you're surrounded by 5 or more enemies, you'll take 20% less damage from range attacks. It's a good perk here, like 20% less damage from range attacks. You can stack that with the perk we saw in the major perk tree of Techmarine as well, where Techmarine does have another 25% range damage reduction, which would take you up to like 45%. That's pretty decent. But as far as perk options go in the Prestige perk tree, the final option here I think is like the best in the entire list. This is called Furious Gunstrike. After using your Gunstrike, melee damage increases by 25% for 5 seconds. This class has a lot of melee damage bonuses already, and being able to do gun strikes automatically off your servo gun means that you really have no downtime in between your melee hits to actually take advantage of this, so this could be very strong. Once again, we do not know for sure if this is a multiplicative damage increase or an additive damage increase, but either way, this is a strong perk effect. Like, that's just my first impression of this. This is a very strong perk effect, especially for this class. It has a lot of synergy with how this class is supposed to play. I think this would be like a must pick for like every single Techmarine Prestige perk tree, and overall, melee damage buffs in Space Marine 2 are pretty fun anyways, because melee damage, melee weapons are more fun to use. And we also have a brand new one that's like a slow hitting, heavy hitting truck with like its own little like special ability that we'll go into here. Like if we go down, just to pull up the article real quick. If you go down here, this is the Omnisaya Axe. So this does look pretty cool, and having like, I don't know, over 50% melee damage buff on your charging attacks and single heavy hits on top of these sweeping arcs that you can just body people with, and the overcharge perk we talked about previously, that's pretty strong. That's my impression of this. It is pretty strong. But that's pretty much everything we have on the perk tree for the Techmarine currently. Let me know what you guys think about the perk tree in the comments below. I think most people will be satisfied with this class. It does look pretty fun. The major draw of this is the new Tarantula Sentry Guns, the Servo Gun, and of course the new Omniscience Axe with all the other melee weapon options. That's all I have to say in this one, guys. Thank you for watching. If you like content like this, subscribe for more. And as always, take it easy. Bye.